following is based on fact, fiction, science, or otherwise. We present that which is researched and that which is believed to be accurate and true. Professor Truth, guests, and associates may not agree on all viewpoints expressed, implied, or misunderstood by the reader or listener from the content communicated in any format. The information presented is for educational and philosophical purposes only, based solely on the spiritual precepts of the King James Bible as elucidated by original language word studies and the anointing of the Holy Spirit of Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, Yahweh incarnate, Father God in the flesh. Isaiah 9:6.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Pastor Eli James here, along with Professor Truth. And this is going to be the first in our series of the refuting the flat earth contentions that have been circulating on the internet. And it's quite astounding, the claims that have been made by these various flat earthers who, number one, deny obvious science that's been known for thousands of years, and pretend to know better than the rest of us. But the arguments they put out and the videos they put out are actually quite infantile, to say the least. Well, it's obvious that the rocket simply runs out of fuel, right? I mean, they claim that it's hitting the flat Earth dome. Well, it's obvious that the rocket simply runs out of fuel, right? I mean, they claim that it's hitting the flat Earth dome. And one of the concerns is the so-called Van Allen belt. And the claim is made by flat earthers that you can't get past the Van Allen belt. All right? That is an obvious lie. It's a real obvious lie. And here's a crazy video that they have put out. The title of this is on YouTube. It's still available. And the title of the video is Rocket Hitting the Flat Earth Dome. Okay, I'm going to play it here for Professor Truth. And there's a bunch of people. Now, whoever put this out is making the claim that this is going to crash into the dome. So here's some of the audio. Here, it's only 2 minutes long, so let's give it a listen.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, this is a homemade rocket. It's spinning around and around. The video is it's an excellent video, actually. It's going up and up and up. You can see the surface receding somewhat because it really doesn't. Okay, the rocket reached an altitude of 73 miles is the claim made on the video. And unfortunately, it's not a steady video of what's going on. It's flashing on and off. And so I'm just going to go near to the end where it's going higher and higher. I'm not sure what to play, how high. Okay, now it runs out of fuel. And that's that. Right? Okay, so it stops. All right, so where's the proof that it hit something? It's not in this video. The claim is made in the title, Rocket Hitting the Flat Earth Dome. But the rocket simply stops, and nothing unusual happens. And even if it did, who's to say that they didn't make up some sort of crash, right? Because it wouldn't be a solid object. There's no way it's a solid object. That's just a speculation of the flat earthers. So in my article on the subject, this is the scientific research I've done about the flat earth movement. Okay. My concern is most of the people promoting the modern resurgence of this theory, that is flat earthism, are hucksters who make false claims. One video purports to show a homemade rocket running into the Van Allen belt, thus proving that we could never have gone to the moon because it is impossible for a rocket to go through the Van Allen belt. I looked at the video, and it was obvious the rocket simply ran out of fuel, which is really obviously what happens. In another YouTube video entitled "NASA Engineer Admits They Can't Get Past the Van Allen Belts," it is claimed that the announcer admits that it is impossible for a rocket to go through the Van Allen belt. This is a lie. The video actually proves that the title is a lie. Okay? So it amazes me how these people can put out these falsely titled videos and claim that it proves the exact opposite. No, when you actually watch the video, it proves that the title is a lie. Okay, I think at this point, you're just going to have to stop and start as we go.
Okay, I want to add one comment on just a couple things. First of all, again, Pastor Eli James and myself, Professor Truth, are doing actually episode 4 in our Flat Earth for Dummies series. This is probably the first one where we specifically identify the ridiculous nature and viewpoints of those that call themselves flat earthers. It really has gotten ridiculous, but nevertheless, we're going to keep pressing forward for those that, for some reason, might be able to be broken free of this witchcraft spell and psyop agenda. The Van Allen belt is a area of charged particles that ranges from about 400 to 6,000 miles outside the perimeter of the spherical Earth. It is held in place by the magnetic fields of the Earth, and if you know anything about magnetic fields of a magnet, you'll know that there are certain areas that are more dense than others. And it turns out the North and South Pole are sparsely dense to almost to a 0 degree as far as the charged particles and radiation that people are concerned about. So the way you go through the Van Allen belt is actually quite simple. You can map out the hot zones and weak zones in the energy particle densities, and you just go for the weak zones. And in addition, you don't go out of the equators, you don't launch out of the equators, you launch toward the north or the south on a spherical globe where the magnetic fields are very weak as far as the flux density. That's how conventional science does it. How the secret space program gets through the Van Allen belt, they do it 2 different ways. They can bend time-space and just go around it, or they can use what's called a gravity bubble. You create a artificial gravity field around your craft, and that gravity bubble can go through anything, and the particles would just go around whatever object is transversing if it has a gravity bubble around it. Now, that's scalar physics and black science, but that's how we do it. Over to you, Pastor Eli.
Yeah. Okay, so several outlandish claims are made by these flat earthers, such as Antarctica is really a wall of ice surrounding the flat earth like a pizza, right? And it's surrounded by ice. They have never provided any visual evidence that it is such, okay? Because if you're gonna claim that this exists, you should have a video that goes up above this wall of ice, and all you would see behind it is black space.
Thank you.
There's no such video. And any video of Antarctica clearly shows that it's a virtually endless continent. Airliners fly over it in trips from South Africa to Australia because it's much shorter that way. All right, and airlines, believe me, folks, they're going to take the shortest route possible to save fuel. Okay. And because, and it's actually quite a dangerous route, because if you run out of fuel or something goes wrong with the engines over Antarctica, you're pretty much stranded in freezing weather conditions. So, but the international airline community has actually started flying over Antarctica. No wall of ice has ever been photographed, and no flat earther can ever provide any such evidence because it's a lie. Now, I've been trying to relocate this video. It was a video put out under the title that NASA engineer admits they can't get past the Van Allen belts. And so this is the title of the video. Unfortunately, that video has been since removed. And I watched the video because I wanted to see if the video actually supports the title. But at the 3-minute mark, the announcer begins talking about how dangerous the radiation of the Van Allen belt is. Note carefully that he never says that it is impossible to go through it. He only says that the radiation is dangerous. He does not say that the Van Allen belt is impassable. The title of that video is deceptive. It is an outright lie. The video is interspersed with irrelevant and misleading questions, which insinuate that the NASA announcer is lying, but it is the video producer who is using deceptive techniques to suggest that the announcer is lying. Okay, one of the commentators says, Dr. James Van Allen. This recent Fox TV show, which I saw, is an ingenious and entertaining assemblage of nonsense. The claim that radiation exposure during the Apollo missions would have been fatal to the astronauts is one example of such nonsense. That's Dr. Van Allen himself, who's saying that the Van Allen belt radiation is not as dangerous as even the announcer in the video implies, certainly not as dangerous as the video producer suggests. Over to you.
Yeah, I like what you said. It's absolutely ridiculous. The Van Allen belt, like I mentioned earlier, I can't say where I've been, but I've seen real maps and real pictures from real satellites of the Van Allen belt. And in fact, I have almost finished a master's degree from this particular university that is recognized for space exploration, applied physics. And again, I'm not going to name it, but I can say that science is science. And yes, there are some agendas out there. You just have to be smart. But the foundation of science, anybody has a science degree, a geophysics degree, astronomy degree, anybody that's put some rigor into a discipline of science of this nature, there's no question the mathematics, the magnetics, electromagnetics, electronics, everything supports a spherical Earth, gravity,
yes,
and electromagnetic theory. Over to you, Pastor.
Yeah, well, for example, one of our shows that we present on Eurofolk Radio is broadcast from South America, almost directly south. It's the same time zone as Chicago, Illinois. So whenever I talk to this person who's in the southern hemisphere, by the way, south of the equator, his is the same time zone as mine, so he rises according to the same time zone that I do. And so if the flat Earth models were correct, and the sun is traversing the outer perimeter of the ice wall, we talked last time about how that would affect a stick and a shadow. The shadow of the stick would be the exact opposite of the position of the sun. But there's no stick, sundial, that behaves that way ever. Okay, so you can just tell by a sundial that this model is absolutely false. So any model that suggests that the sun is traversing the outer perimeter of the flat Earth edge is simply a lie, because you can prove it yourself just by putting a stick in the ground in your backyard. You will see that it doesn't behave that way. Okay.
I think your example also, the simple shadow of it on a stick is really for babies, although these flat earthers are not even in preschool in my view. But the shadow example is clearly an easy experiment everybody can do. But you mentioned time zones. Okay, so if you have a friend or know somebody down in South America, if according to their flat Earth model, they would be in almost an opposite time zone or something extremely different from where you are, but they're not. They're in the same time zone. And if you look at their model, they have to assume that whatever they call the sun, which they depict as some kind of strange flashlight, they depict it like hundreds of miles in the air instead of 93 million miles away. And they bend everything, and in everything that they can't explain, they say it doesn't exist or it's some government conspiracy. I mean, this is so beyond foolishness. And, Yahweh put on my heart, and Pastor, I pray this is not true, but either you and I are telling the truth, or they're telling the truth, which means the other one is the liar. So if we're telling the truth, which we are, and they're liars or believing the lie, well, Revelation says all liars go to hell. And I've also noticed that all of the flat earthers are not pure seed Jacob Israel. They're hybrids of some form. And I know this because no pure seed Israel, once being shown the truth, because Jesus says, my sheep hear my voice and follow me. They don't have to be coerced and kicked along. No pure seed, once hearing the truth, will not respond to it favorably. And therefore, by just logic, they're infected to some degree. Over to you.
Yeah, well, the more accessible to lies and fakery. The real fakery is being done by the flat earthers, okay? And the absolute lack of explanations they have for their models. For example, I challenged a flat earther on the fact that the southern hemisphere has a completely different set of stars than the northern hemisphere. On any flat earth model, all you have is the northern hemisphere. Okay, because they deny that there is a southern hemisphere. So then, why can't you see the Southern Cross from the northern hemisphere? I mean, I've been to South Africa. I've been to Vietnam. I've seen the Southern Cross. Okay, you can't see that from the northern hemisphere. So where is it on the flat Earth model? It doesn't exist on the flat Earth model. So they're obviously wrong.
They will say stars don't exist, and everything you see is some kind of Photoshop imagination.
Yeah. Okay, well, but stars existed before NASA. Okay? I mean, you can read about it in the poetry from the 1600s, right? It's ridiculous. They make up these ad hoc excuses for the fact that they can't give explanations. That's the problem. Flat earthers. They cannot give any explanations. They give suppositions, they issue denials, they make up fairy tales, but they cannot give explanations. Okay? Now, here's a video that says NASA admits they can't send humans. Okay? This is actually a conversation with two astronauts floating in weightlessness out in space. So let's give a listen to this video. And Professor, I'm just going to have to ask you to edit for the final version here, because first of all, I would suggest that it is almost impossible to fake weightlessness on Earth or in some airplane. I know that you can do it for a few seconds in an airplane. You can mimic weightlessness. If the airplane is going up, levels off, and comes down, at that top point, you can get a weightless feeling, just like at the top of a roller coaster, okay? But not for minutes at a time or hours at a time, as they do at NASA. So here, let's listen to this interview with a couple of astronauts.
The future of space exploration, the emerge of private space sector and daily life in space.
Okay, now you can actually get on a plane that goes out into space. You can experience it for yourself, and you can look out and you can actually spacewalk. Okay, I guess you're never going to get away from the porthole experience. However, the porthole experience, what do they call it? A convex lens? The
fisheye?
Fisheye, yeah. The bubble lens on an astronaut's uniform is not a fisheye. It's not the same as the porthole in an airliner. Okay, so let's continue.
These are among the topics we discussed today with two special guests from International Space Station, Terry Wirtz, the current ISS commander, and Samantha Cristoforetti, the first Italian female astronaut in space.
That's why he's got the Italian accent. Now, the guy put in this, these two bozos are suspended from cables in front of a green screen.
Thank you very much for joining us on Euronews. I would like to start by asking how you feel about the other 3 crew members returning to Earth. As the next crew will arrive at the end of March, do you feel a bit lonely up there in space?
You know, it was sad seeing.
Okay, so the video producer says blah blah blah. Let's get to the point. They haven't even started talking yet. Okay, and this is the comment of the video producer here. Okay, this is Jordan Rains. This is obviously a hit piece, not intended to edify anyone. Let's continue.
And what comes after the International Space Station once its mission is over? How do we ensure the presence of humans in space?
Well, that's a great question. The plan that NASA has is to build a rocket called SLS, which is a heavy lift rocket. It's something that is much bigger than what we have today, and it will be able to launch the Orion capsule with humans on board.
Now, the video producer questions the name Orion. What's the problem with that? Okay, it's ridiculous.
As landers or other components to destinations beyond Earth orbit. Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit.
We can only fly in Earth, as if that's a problematic statement. He's not talking about the entire space program. He's only talking about the capsule that he's in, okay? But even from Earth orbit, you can see that the Earth is round, not flat, okay?
I think Earth orbit is a couple hundred miles up.
Yeah, and then they have a really good diagram here of the Van Allen belt. The inner belt, it's basically the Earth's magnetic field from a spherical perspective. Mm-hmm. All right. So, and then these magnetic fields are documented. For example, how would a flat earther explain the satellites that result in television transmission? You know, you have your disk on your house to pick up satellite. How do these? Would they have the fuel to stay aloft and transmit, these signals, or are they in orbit where they don't require any fuel?
They haven't thought this out. They say that the satellites either don't exist or that they're on airplanes. And there is no space. They're on airplanes, but that brings up the same problem you just mentioned. Well, the airplanes are going to run out of fuel.
Yes, they're going to run out of fuel, and this would be a very expensive proposition for television transmission from satellite if they had to refuel these jet planes constantly. It's an absurd proposition. Again, it's an ad hoc explanation because they don't have a real explanation. Let's continue. Let's play. So even the producer admits that it's 230 miles above.
We only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So,
okay, what did he just say? This new system is going to allow us to go beyond, okay? Far beyond the Van Allen belt. So the title of this video, folks, is NASA admits they can't send humans through the Van Allen radiation belts. The astronaut just said the exact opposite. Yeah, you think it's for fools?
Not to mention, you can go beyond the Van Allen belt.
That's right.
We do.
That's right. Yeah. See, these falsely titled videos are amazing. There's numerous videos such as this, falsely titled. If you actually watch the video, you'll find that the video does the opposite of what the producer claims.
Follow the money.
Yeah, well, I don't know if these people are after money or maybe have been paid already to produce such nonsensical videos. Or they're just disinfo agents, because I maintain that the whole Flat Earth project is itself a psyop put out. And the purpose of this psyop is to take people's minds off of real issues such as international banking, the coming race war. Actually, the race war has already started, and what's happening politically and in religion, because people are waking up to the fact that mainstream religion has gone totally berserk. They're as bad as Antifa and Black Lives Matter in the nonsense they spew out. The Pope saying things like, "Oh, the Bible loves gays." No, it doesn't. Right? It's quite amazing that what the establishment, I'm talking entire establishment programs, such as the Catholic Church, Judeo-Christianity, politics, you name it, Big Pharma. These are all organizations, all of them lie to us. NASA lies to us for sure. Okay, but the spherical Earth has been proven hundreds, as we proved last week, 2,000 years before NASA existed. Okay, and so people who deny these things, they must think we're idiots, that this has only been around since NASA existed?
Well, they've been spraying us with alien tech, little fibers that are organic, and I'm convinced if you're not sealed by Yahweh, as the book of Revelation states, that these fibers can be activated by radio frequency, and I think they're like invasion of the body snatchers, and no kidding, these people are really body snatched with alien technology, and it's messing with their minds and spirits and souls, because flat earth, as you said, Pastor, is a psyop to get us to take our attention off the real issues, which you mentioned, race wars, religion, politics, and the things going on in the world, but not only that, to take our mind off of the weather, possibly incoming Planet X and things of that nature, if that's God's method of judgment, and the fact that we're near the second advent, the real important things they're getting people to totally not pay any attention to.
At all the crap blowing in the air that you can't see. This is up against a tree with the sun in the background. Holy crap, look at that. It is not raining, it is sunny. Well, it's mostly sunny. It's been really cloudy earlier, but the sun's cleared up, or the clouds have cleared up. Look at. Okay, it's just regular. Oh my gosh, friends. Are you kidding? Look at all that crap. I was trying to get a picture of this right here. I thought it looked so cool. And then I started seeing all that stuff. What the heck? Holy crap. Too bad I don't have something to catch that stuff. But I'll tell you what, man, that is a lot of crap coming out. I don't know. Here you go. It's not cold enough to snow. It's definitely warmer than that. There's no snow. There's no rain. There's just chemical poison fallout. And by the way, it is February 1st, 2015, or 2016, sorry. Yep, it's probably about 3 something in the afternoon, I don't know. I'll include a snapshot that I was taking that other picture of how I found this in the first place. So, okay, that's it. Bye for now.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's all a distraction, a deliberate distraction by the very people. It could even be by NASA people, right? But it's certainly done by the secret agencies such as the CIA, MIA, and others to simply get people to think about other things, as a distraction away from politics, just like antinomianism and universalism in Christianity distract you away from the true message of the Bible. Okay?
And the Bible says if Yahweh does not seal you, you are open to intrusion. And the movie The Matrix said it in this way: those that are not unplugged can be at any time controlled by a sentient program. Well, to replace sentient with demon, okay? So at any time, anyone who is not unplugged from the matrix of religion or the matrix of this dark system, you are hive-minded into a demonic hierarchy of hive-minded energy, and there's really no hope for you.
Yes. I'm going to quote from an article here. I'll send it to you via Skype as well, and you can share it with the viewers when this video is finally produced. But a roundabout route, this is from the Baltimore Sun, roundabout route is the shortest flight. The United States is working out a deal with Moscow to shorten flights to the Far East by crossing Russia. Okay? Now, on a flat Earth model, now it's hard to see, where is the North Pole on a flat Earth? Okay? It's got to be the North Pole because they depict Antarctica as a ring around the flat Earth. So the very center of the planet has to be the North Pole. If that's the case, how do you explain the fact that 6 months out of the year, the North Pole is completely dark?
Mm-hmm.
How do you explain the winter flu that the people in the northernmost countries, such as Norway and Sweden, because the nights are so long in the winter that the sun practically never rises? Okay? How do you depict that on a flat Earth model? Can't be done. So they simply ignore it. Are all these people living in Norway lying to us? Okay? And later on, we'll show a video of the Midnight Sun baseball game that's played on the North Pole every year when, of course, 6 months out of the year, it is daylight. 6 months continuous daylight on the North Pole, while you have 6 months of continuous nighttime at the South Pole. Why? Because the Earth is tipped at an angle of 23.5 degrees, and when the North Pole is tipping toward the sun, it doesn't get dark for 6 months. Okay? On the other side, it will stay dark for 6 months and be light at Antarctica. Okay? This is true only of a sphere. And just like you can't depict the southern hemisphere stars on a flat Earth model, you can't depict any kind of 6 month daylight or 6 month night because their flat Earth model, it can't be depicted on a flat Earth model. Okay? The article, this was published December 23, 1999. Outside of geometry class, the shortest distance between 2 points is not always a straight line. Not when the points are, say, Chicago and Hong Kong. Between those cities on a round Earth, the shortest distance happens to be a smooth curve passing not far from the North Pole.
That's called spherical geometry.
Yeah, right. The same applies to the South Pole, where the shortest distance between the tip of South America and the tip of South Africa is over the pole, although they don't have to fly quite so high. I have been on transcontinental flights to Europe several times. Every single time, the flight goes over or close to the North Pole, where you can see Greenland very easily. Both look out one porthole to the north, another porthole to the south. All you see is Greenland, frozen ice. Okay, so what would cause all of the ice buildup on the North Pole on a flat Earth?
So I don't know. I know that am constantly offended by the ignorant bastards that live on this planet that I have to deal with all the time. And they're very dumb. And they're very dumb. Very dumb. Very dumb.
If the sun is going around the perimeter, it's always shining on the North Pole. From that perspective, okay, what would cause the cold weather at the extreme poles? What's their explanation? Well, I can see maybe Antarctica being on the edge of the flat Earth, okay, but what about the North? What about why is that cold? Explain that. Explain me this, flat earther. Okay, so on this clear day, chilly day, a Boeing 747 carrying 255 passengers on United Airlines Flight 895 will become the first craft in history to try out a new air route called Polar 4. Most passengers who board the flight in Chicago won't realize they are making aeronautical history, even though Captain Watson W. Tranter's pre-flight announcement includes some welcoming words for 2 Russian air traffic experts on board in the inaugural flight. So for political reasons, we were not flying directly to Russia over the North Pole, which is the shortest route. Okay, but those political reasons have been taken away because the Berlin Wall fell, right? Okay, all right. So, and I have been on flights, well, from America, from Chicago to not Los Angeles, but near San Francisco, on my military flight from twice to Vietnam, because I came home on emergency leave on one occasion. And so I had to make that 22-hour flight twice, actually 4 times there, 2 times there, and 2 times back. And there's no evidence of any wall of ice surrounding the planet. People have taken home videos of their flights all over the world. No such wall of ice has ever been filmed. Okay, this is just a flight of fancy by the so-called ring of ice theory of the flat Earth. Okay, U.S. and Russian officials expect the polar routes over thousands of miles of frozen Arctic Ocean and Siberian waste to enter regular commercial use probably next year. It's just all a stunning contrast with August 1983, when a Soviet MiG fighter shot down a Korean Airlines passenger jet that had strayed into Russian territory, killing all 269 people aboard and sparking some of the bitterest rhetoric of the Cold War. Okay, so it's obviously the airlines are going to take the shortest distance to keep the prices down. That's the economic fact of intercontinental flight. Okay, so they're not going to. And now here's the other problem with the flat Earth, because on the perimeter you'll have the tip of South Africa and you have the tip of South America. The distance between those 2 points has got to be enormous, according to flat Earth reckoning. But when you take those points and bring them closer together, all you have is the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, but on the flat Earth model, you have the Atlantic Ocean, plus you have to go to the very perimeters of the flat Earth model, which has got to be many thousands of miles more than it really is on an actual sphere. Again, they don't take these things into consideration. They make things up and can't explain what they do make up. Over to you.
That's exactly right. They're totally have lost their minds and ability to critically think out any problem. Related to your flight time issue, this is really simple, folks. And I did just a quick example in the past. Look for 2 points on their flat Earth model that is pretty far apart on opposite sides of their flat Earth. I just did an example. If you take the Falkland Islands to approximately New Zealand, that's almost across their entire flat Earth. Not quite, but pretty far. If you measure that distance, it's not completely 26,000 miles, but it's close. And so if you flew across the flat Earth, assuming a 500 mile an hour aircraft speed, it would take you 30 to 40 hours to go that distance. But you can buy a ticket today to go from the Falklands to New Zealand, and it's only about an 8 or 9 hour flight. So what happened to the 20 or 30 hours you would need across a flat Earth? It's because the Earth is not flat.
That's exactly right. Okay, and heaven forbid that you have to pay a ticket for 30 hours of flight when it actually only takes 8 hours. Okay, this is some of the nonsensical arguments that are being made by flat earthers.
Here's the point I want to make to you about this flat Earth thing, okay? It is ridiculous to me that people are even debating this, okay? Every planet in the fucking solar system is round, okay? You think the backside of the Earth is flat? You think it's just like a plate? You think it's just like showing you its face like this? Like, why don't you ever see the moon like this? You think that, you know what I'm saying? Are you fucking idiots even thinking? Somebody just poses some fucking idea to your brain and you're just off and running with it? Like, here's what you really got to know, though, okay? There is an Illuminati card game. Are you aware of this? The Illuminati card game? Research this shit. There is a card. There's a flat Earth card in the Illuminati playing card deck. Came out in the fucking 90s. You idiots are being duped. They've got this history planned out decades in advance, okay? They've got another card showing the Twin Towers coming down, okay? So if that doesn't trigger in your brain, wow, I think I'm being deceived here. How do these people know about this? How are these things just being presented to us all of a sudden for us to just run with? You see, they've had this plan to destroy the truth movement forever. Because you can have all the truth about 9/11, you can know about the alien and the government and military interaction in the deep underground military bases, you can know about all the political corruption, you can know about all this fucking different shit, but you're still being deceived. Just because NASA is airbrushing some photographs doesn't mean that they're completely lying about the fucking shape of the planets, okay? Sure, NASA is covering up a lot of stuff, but the planets are fucking round. What do you think the Earth is, like a fucking pizza floating around in space and the bottom of it's just like fucking char fucking broiled like flat nothing? What do you fucking people, are you fucking idiots? What happens in space when they're up in the fucking spaceship, if you even believe that they can reach no gravity? What happens like when you dump some water out, or you start spinning your finger around some fucking water? It's going to spin, it's going to turn into a ball. It's this vortex. If the Earth is spinning and there's liquid inside and there's things adhering to it, that's what it's going to become, okay? This is like simple physics. I can't explain it because I'm not a physics professor, but I'm telling you, there's an error in your ways. It hurts me to see these people making just comments all over about this Earth being flat, and I'm like, let me just get back to the point, though. This is to discredit you and discredit any truth that you actually have to bring to the table. Because as soon as you say the Earth is flat, anything else you can even think, obviously you can't think very hard, and you're not really a fucking smart person, and you don't know what you're talking about here. You're thinking the Earth is flat. So anything you bring up about 9/11 or any of these other topics, who gives a fuck? Oh, corrupt government spying on us, Jesuit world order, all these things. You want to talk about the Zionists? Sure. And you don't know shit about shit now because you think fucking Earth is flat, you fucking moron. Pathetic state of affairs we have going on in the truth movement. It is just sickening me. I can't stand seeing this. You people need to look up flat Earth card and Illuminati playing game and realize you're being deceived. I had to make this video because I'm sick of making hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments trying to make you realize how stupid you are. Thank you. Have a nice day.
So I don't know. I know that I am constantly offended by the ignorant bastards that live on this planet that I have to deal with all the time. And they're very dumb. And they're very dumb. Very dumb. Very dumb.
Okay. I have this video here of Luke Akins jumping 25,000 feet without a parachute. Okay? And I'm going to send you this video for the audience to observe during the final production of this video that we're doing right here. And there actually have been several people, actually one who was in outer space, jumping off an orbiting capsule in a spacesuit, because he couldn't survive that high. He had to wear a spacesuit, and he ditched the spacesuit as he got lower and lower. But let's watch Mr. Akins. Sorry, I have the wrong video here.
While you're looking for that, Colonel SC and his men have jumped out of high-altitude aircraft to where they needed a suit also. It was so high. And,
right.
Maybe sometime I'll play those audio interviews I did with him coming out. And sure enough, I mean, it's so high you pass out. And when you get, around...
Yeah, like Mount Everest.
Yeah, they passed
right?
out. And then he says when you get to around 80,000 feet or 60,000 feet, you start coming to and you hit an adrenaline needle on your arm that pumps and wakes you up all of a sudden. So, and they've clearly seen a spherical Earth.
Sure. And you will see that from any commercial airline flight that goes from one continent to another. Okay, there's no doubt about that.
I can't be there.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, after this. Okay.
Overwatch. We save millions of lives.
Skip the ad. Here we go. Oh, there's actually Russian television. Okay, so there's 4 guys jumping out of this airplane. Okay, courtesy Mondelez International. Now, in the upper left-hand corner, depending on the angle of the video camera, you can see the clear, rounded, here's perfect, the rounded edge of the planet, because this is a horizontal shot. Beautiful image of the round Earth. Absolutely beautiful. Now, you don't see any kind of, on the downward angle, another beautiful angle of showing the round Earth on the upper right-hand corner, the very top of the picture. Another beautiful one with they're actually falling to the right on the screen. Beautiful image of the round Earth. Now, there's no fisheye lens effect when they're aiming down, okay? There's only a fisheye lens effect when they're aiming to the horizon, okay? That's because the horizon is curved, not because the Earth is flat, okay? Now, he's jumping without a parachute into a net on the ground, and he lands successfully. So, this was a stunt. Skydiver Luke Akins jumps 25,000 feet. How tall is Mount Everest? Okay.
Not that tall.
No, not that tall. And from that height, you can clearly see the rounded Earth. There's no doubt about it. And there's no fisheye lens effect, because that is a lie. The whole fisheye lens effect is a pure lie made up by the flat earthers. Okay. And, in the airline flights that I've taken, obviously the porthole that you're looking through does have curved lenses. And the reason they're curved is because they can withstand more air pressure that way. Okay?
Curved does not equate to fisheye, though.
That's right. It doesn't. And so what we're seeing here is this guy jumped from outer space, practically outer space, 25,000 feet up. And the downward fall of all 4 parachuters, except for the one, he wasn't wearing a parachute. he was threading the needle, putting his life on the line. And this isn't the only person who's done such a stunt. This has been repeated by others, and in every case, when they're high enough, you can see that the Earth is clearly round. Okay, so the flat earthers have to deny that this jump ever took place. They have to invoke fisheye lens. They have to invoke all kinds of fishy stories.
The entire globe is in a collusion conspiracy.
Yeah, right. Well, I would say about them as well, because we've already exposed their lies. The way they mistitle their videos to suggest that the exact opposite of what the video actually contains is true. So these people are liars, and they're not very good liars. But as I have maintained before, our educational system is doing such a poor job of education. Instead of teaching science, they're teaching lesbian gay rights, and all kinds of nonsense like that. And so you can expect children coming out of the public schools are going to be very ignorant. and no little math. They're even trying to get rid of calligraphy and cursive writing so that all you have left is block printing. The educational system is dumbing our children down to the point where they're absolutely ignorant. You've probably seen the videos of guys going on campus asking college students, what's the capital of New Hampshire? Who's the president of the United States? And they don't know the answer. This is how ignorant our people are that actually go to public schools. Total ignorance is what we're dealing with.
I don't think all the flat earthers are liars, but I do think a majority of them are certainly not able to apply critical thinking skills. And for whatever reason, whether they're a product of the educational de-educational system, or they're under some form of advanced mind control, which is more of my theory, the strong delusion, God gives them the strong delusion that gives them what they want.
Mind control. And they're taking advantage of ill-educated children and convincing them that the earth is flat.
That's right. And they don't have any science and math degrees anymore. Everybody's taking liberal arts or philosophy. Not that there's anything wrong with philosophy and liberal arts, but if you don't have a mathematical or a science or an engineering degree, you don't get the discipline of the logic, the critical thinking, the math, the physics applied to our world that we live in. And if you don't have that, you can pretty much make up anything. Everything's a conspiracy.
And if your audience is like that, they'll believe anything. Okay? So here's another one here. This is Felix Baumgartner, space jump world record, 2012. And here again, when people watch the videos, sorry for the ads. I can't eliminate the ads. You'll have to do that, Professor. And when you lower the volume of this real quick, this is really loud. Okay, here's Felix Baumgartner. Okay, a clear shot. You can almost see 1/4 of the planet.
The door has opened.
Obviously a sphere. So he's waiting. He's at 127,575 feet. That's pretty high, and you can see clearly. Now, from the fisheye of his porthole, you can't see the rounded because the porthole is so small, you can't see the whole Earth. But here, from this shot here, at 32 seconds into the video, you can see practically 1/4 of the curved Earth. That's the angle of the shot. Now he's getting out of the capsule, and I'm going to follow him all the way down to the ground because I want to explain some things here. Why, for example, when he first jumps out, he begins to accelerate very quickly. For those who want to deny that there's such a thing as gravity, why don't your tennis balls go out into space, or your golf ball? Why doesn't your golf ball fly into the next country? That's because of gravity. That's why. Gravity is real. It's not an imaginary thing. So, no, but the scientists really can't explain what it is. In my opinion, it's an electromagnetic effect. I don't believe that gravity is a force by itself. I don't believe it's a separate force. But it is a cumulative effect of all of the gravitational fields that exist on the Earth. And small objects will always be attracted to a larger object, unless it's orbiting. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense, Pastor Eli, because the anti-gravity crafts, there's various ways to produce anti-gravity, but the old technologies used counter-rotating toroidal coils over, I believe it was mercury, but nevertheless, it was interacting electromagnetic fields to create a null zone. So it's a null zone in an electromagnetic field.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, it's all about vibration, and electromagnetism is high-level vibration. Okay, so he's looking down. You can clearly see the round Earth from the higher camera angle. He's counting down, and that video we just presented by Mr. Akins was an uncut video showing his descent from jumping out of the airplane to hitting the ground. Okay, no special effects, no fisheye lenses. Okay, he's getting ready to jump. Okay, He's disconnecting his oxygen. I'm going to fast forward. Okay, well, he's standing up now. And in this photograph, you can clearly see the round Earth in the background. It's undeniable. Now, a straight downward shot, looking at the Earth below from over his head, like you're getting ready to jump with a parachute on any type of flight. And let me pull up.
Reassuring what we've seen there.
Okay, now he's in free fall.
High speed drop, and now you can see from
and he's gathering speed. The reason he's gathering speed is because there's no atmosphere that high up, or very little atmosphere. Just as a
plotting, but you can see by
the astronauts coming back from space,
that he's in
they fell really fast. And then when they encountered the atmosphere, they slowed down, okay? Because the atmosphere will slow you down. So he's 2 minutes into free fall, and he's just like a white speck.
So 2 minutes.
And we will give the link to people. They can watch this. And eventually the parachute opens.
There's from the helicopter now.
This is showing from the helicopter.
Under canopy, floating safely down to Earth. Now we see that.
And here's his parachute. No fisheye lens effect from lower down on the ground. Okay. The roads are straight.
Just 5,000 feet.
Okay, this fisheye lens business is an absolute lie. And we'll put this video up. But the clear vantage point from above the space capsule that he jumped out of clearly shows a spherical Earth, no doubt about it, to try to disprove that this jump happened. It did happen. Here's the video evidence that it happened. Over to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear to people that can think, but they will say it's all CGI, magic video graphics that they do in Hollywood, and that was all staged, and it's just a conspiracy. So you can't argue with these ad hominem red herring type of arguments that they come up with. But nevertheless, what we're doing here today, Pastor Eli and myself, is just presenting the facts, the truth. The truth will make you free, and if you deny the truth, you will end up somewhere that you're not going to be free, and it's really hot there.
Yes, very hot there. Okay. All right. Now, another thing we want to get into is the heliocentric theory of Copernicus and Galileo. Now, one of the things that we were just basically been talking about, let's call it a terracentric perspective. And by the way, that is because we had a question from a listener about the language of Scripture. And it's really obvious to me that the perspective that Moses was writing from was as a person standing on the earth and describing the skies, describing the mountains, describing the seas and the oceans and the rivers from a particular vantage point on the earth.
And the scripture you're referencing is the part, I think is it in Joshua where it says he saw the sun and the moon stand still?
Right. Well, I mean, we still use the same language today. We say that the sun goes from east to west and goes over the sky. Well, that's from our vantage point. Okay. So, but if you go up into space, the higher up you go, the less that vantage point is true. Okay. And so basically, Moses is speaking the language of someone standing on the earth, observing things. Okay, that's all it is. That's all the language entails. It can't be taken literally. What happened there was that the earth stopped rotating. Okay, it stopped rotating. Well, how do the alternative is that the dome has to stop rotating, okay? Or now if the sun is going around the circle of Antarctica, and how is he going to explain that? Would the sun still stay? What's keeping the sun aloft? They have no explanation for that.
Yeah, they'd say the sun stopped somehow, but they have no explanation for anything, really.
Right. No, they don't. They simply make things up. So all that is, it's a terracentric, for lack of a better word, it's a terracentric explanation. You look up in the sky, yeah, the sun stopped moving for about a day. Okay, then it started up again. Well, that's because the Earth stopped rotating, not because the sun stopped moving. Okay, and so, but we use that language. We use terracentric language to explain these things. We still speak that way today. People who believe that the Earth is a sphere still speak that language today because it's the easiest way of communicating what we see with our eyes from the rotating Earth. Okay? That's the explanation of why that language is there. And as we showed in the first 2 episodes where we took on the biblical argument of Shadowald, that the words that he thinks mean motionless and fixed and stopped and et cetera, don't mean that. He has taken those words out of context and simply tried to say that the word fixed cannot mean motion in a fixed orbit, which it can mean exactly that. Right, so he takes that to mean the Earth doesn't move at all, right? So, but the Hebrew words we discovered don't mean that at all. They don't mean his interpretation at all.
Right, and I do want people to know that we did have a flat Earth person challenge us to a debate, but Christian Israel, the bloodline of Jacob, Isaac, Eli, myself, and Pastor Steve and others, we will not entertain a debate with the heathen, with the retarded, because there's nothing for us to gain. You can't argue with a fool. People see 2 fools arguing, right? Because a fool will never jump out of the mud. They're going to pull you into the mud. And you can't argue with these absolute morons. So there was no point. So what we're doing is showing you the facts in these videos for those that have eyes to see. Another example.
Eyes to see.
Yeah, exactly. I saw this retarded black guy, flat Earth person say, well, let's take an airplane flight. So he got in an airplane and he took a 8-inch level, with a little bubble, a level. And he says, if the Earth was flat, the plane's tip of the nose would have to be pointing down and the level wouldn't be level. I mean, that shows the absolute retardation to the extreme. I mean, folks, on a spherical Earth, you're always perpendicular to the point underneath you, always. Even if the Earth was so spherical and had a radius that was very small, which it does not, it has a large radius, so you would never encounter the sense of the curvature from that altitude. But even if it had a small radius and was extremely curved and a plane was flying, the plane would still always be perpendicular to the point underneath it, and the level would always be flat. These guys are idiots.
Unless the airline pilot was having difficulty, right?
These guys are absolute idiots. Anyway, we're not going to debate idiots.
It's incredible what they say. But if there's any a qualified person who wants to debate us on this issue, consider the points that we're making. And
how can they be qualified if they take a flat Earth position, though? I mean, really.
Qualified. Let's say a Christian Israelite, a white person who believes in flat Earth, and if you can challenge what we're producing here, by all means, try to do so. Okay, we will have no difficulty, shouting down or actually disproving what you have to say. First of all, Magellan circumnavigated the entire globe from, I forget which way he started. I think he went down to Africa first, went around Africa, and then to India, and across the Atlantic, and back to the Pacific, rather, and then South America, and then came back to Europe. Okay? He actually did not survive the trip. So he circumnavigated the globe from west to east. Never reported a wall of ice. Okay. From the flat Earth model, if you start in Chicago and you go straight east, what does east mean on a flat Earth model?
Good point.
What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. But for us, we know that New York is east of Chicago. Okay? So if you go from Chicago to New York and continue east, as many airlines do, and as Magellan did, you will not run into a wall of ice because there is no wall of ice there. Okay? There is a continent called Antarctica that is covered with ice. Greenland is covered with ice. And the North Pole is covered with ice, although a lot of that's melting in recent years. But you have to explain, why is the North Pole so cold? They can't explain that either. Okay?
Well, we have planes that fly every aspect of this spherical globe every day, and like you say, it's so easy to say, okay, you think there's an ice wall around the circumference of the Earth or the perimeter. Well, then show me the pictures. First of all, there isn't because we're on a spherical Earth, but we have planes every single day. Okay, we have people with iPhone cameras every single day that would be in those regions.
Up, everyone? Reset our
Okay, please continue.
I'm just going to say, I mean, they have no evidence and they have no science and they have no logic. They only have some perverted philosophy that they say everything's a conspiracy or doesn't exist. And I mean, how do you argue with fools like that?
Well, yeah, that's because they have no arguments. It's just like the Holocaust. Whenever you try to debate the Holocaust with the people who purvey the theory, they refuse to debate because they know they have no proof. So their debate is censorship. Period. Censorship. That's all they have, right? So they're not going to debate somebody who knows what he's talking about. They're simply not going to do that. Okay.
The flat Earth folks, their newest main argument, and this guy named Rob Skiba, and I actually like a lot of what Rob has done on some other subjects. He has some good work out there. But his main thing on the flat Earth is he will only debate on the biblical aspects. So he's probably realizing that scientific aspects he can't defend. Yeah. But he now says he'll only debate the biblical aspects, and I would argue, well, that's why we have 30,000 denominations all saying the other's wrong, because when they don't do the word studies and don't look up the words, you can make the Bible say anything you want.
Right. I think we were very fair when we talked about the biblical arguments for flat Earth and showed that they're wanting. We concluded that the Bible doesn't tell us one way or the other whether the Earth is a sphere or flat.
When you look up the words.
Yeah, when you look up the words, okay? And that's clearly what none of these flat earthers have done. They simply make arguments based on the King James translation, which we know has 23,000 and more errors, okay? And then until you do the word studies and realize that these words have other meanings or different meanings or sometimes the complete opposite meaning of what you think, then the flat earth theory cannot be supported from Scripture. I think we proved that in our two-part episode on the Shadowald, flat earth theory, okay? All right, so for the balance of today's show, this video, Flat Earth Conspiracy Debunked. And
what's up, everyone? Press reset our
part of it here, because
so today I'm going to talk about the Flat Earth theory. Yes, it's been gaining popularity and a lot of momentum the past 6 months or so. And a lot of people are buying into this. And look, I've looked into the Flat Earth theory. There's different models. But I've also looked into the other side of it, the more conventional globe theory, and that seems to make the most sense to me. And no, I'm not going to show you the fake CGI NASA photos. No, I'm not going to, cite NASA in any way, shape, or form, or even any of these major institutions that are trying to control the scientific progress of humanity. Instead, these are...
See, he agrees with us. There is a conspiracy, okay? But it's not to hide that the Earth is flat. that has no political significance whatsoever, except to the extent that it keeps people dumbed down. That's the conspiracy, is dumbing people down, and this author admits it.
I think the other aspect of the conspiracy to dumb people down is to see how their mind control technology is actually working.
Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah, we're a big experiment, right? Yeah. We're the lab rats. Okay, let's continue.
They're things that you can actually test on your own in many cases. And also, a lot of this is also just sort of common sense knowledge that, you know, is something that you can measure quite often on your own, once again. Now, the first little scientific proof I want to get into here is the fact that the moon actually is inverted depending on which hemisphere of the Earth you're on. So if you're in the southern hemisphere as compared to the northern hemisphere, the moon is going to appear differently because you're looking at it from two different angles. You understand what I'm saying?
It's going to appear upside down from the hemisphere. Okay. Okay. You can't reproduce this from a flat disk. Okay. Again, as I said earlier, the entire sky is totally different in the southern hemisphere, including the moon. Let's give a listen again.
Because the Earth is indeed a globe, this wouldn't work in a flat Earth model. There is no way to explain this in the flat Earth model, and this isn't something that you need to consult NASA to test for yourself. In fact, we have global communication now, and this is something that we can actually test.
You can call a friend in the southern hemisphere.
And share pictures on your iPhone.
That's right. That's right. Okay. But this is something the flat earthers won't do. They don't do science. They do fakery.
You know, if somebody in the southern hemisphere was talking or video chatting with somebody in the northern hemisphere, they could actually look at the moon at the same time and test this. Okay, this is irrefutable proof.
So do it, flat earthers. Do it.
We are on a globe structure looking at the moon. Now, another thing that we can do to indeed at least logically assume that we're on a globe structure is to just go out, buy yourself a telescope. Any amateur astronomer can do this. And just look at the planets, okay? And you can see that they are indeed spherical, and some of them even have moons orbiting them. And you can see this with your own eyes in a telescope, in a halfway decent telescope that you can buy online for, you know, a couple $1,000 or something. We could even look at the moon and the moon cycles, which is caused by light from the sun reflecting off the spherical object of the moon, and you can test this yourself with a golf ball, shining it in a light, and you can see that this is indeed a sphere you're looking at when it comes to the moon. And you know, a lot of the flat earthers will say it's a disk, and you can disprove that by placing a disk in a light as well. And you know, you can't get those same curved shadows that you see.
Yeah, you don't get the same effects with a flat disk as with a spherical moon. Okay. And I had an encounter with a flat earther on Facebook where I showed a picture of the moon, full moon. So every jot and tittle of the moon's surface was visible. At the center of the moon, everything was very bright, no shadows. But at the perimeter of the moon, you can clearly see there are shadows. And the shadows are always away from the center, showing that the light at the perimeter of the moon is casting shadows of objects at the perimeter. Okay? Why doesn't it do that in the center? That's because the moon is a sphere, and what you're seeing, if it were a flat disk, you wouldn't see any shadows. It would be all the same, just like in the center of the photograph. But no, at the perimeter, you see shadows. That's because they're further away than the center of the moon, than the equator of the moon. It's very simple to explain. Let's continue.
On the moon. Now, all that being said, simple logic allows us to assume that if everything else, if all the other planets, which also have moons, if everything else in the sky is a sphere, why wouldn't the Earth be? I mean, it's totally illogical. How does that make any sense? It doesn't, folks. Now, another thing we need to take into consideration is the Coriolis effect. This indeed proves that we are on a spinning
and we'll do more with
structure.
That later.
And there is no debating this, because snipers, for instance, and you can ask any sniper in the military, you don't have to go to a NASA website to figure this one out. They have to take into account the Coriolis effect when engaging in a long-distance sniper shot.
Flat earthers will simply deny that the Coriolis effect exists.
Or that snipers exist.
Snipers exist. But you can demonstrate the Coriolis effect yourself on a carousel. a park carousel. If you both are turning on the carousel and you throw a ball at the person on to the upper side of the carousel, unless you account for the fact that that person is rotating, you have to throw, let's say this angle from the top down, it would be, you have to, just like a quarterback in a football game, he has to compensate for the route that the receiver is taking. And if you throw right at the person on the opposite, you will always miss. That's the Coriolis effect. You have to take it into account. Let's continue.
Shot, okay? And if they don't, they miss, okay?
Yeah,
they miss. 100% not debatable. And I even personally know guys that were in the Marines that can tell you that this is indeed a fact, all right? The Coriolis effect, you have to take it into consideration. And this is also why we see hurricanes and storm systems spinning in two different directions on each side of the globe.
If you watch the news of a hurricane in the southern hemisphere, they have a different name for it, okay? But in the northern typhoon. In the northern hemisphere, they spin
right hand spin in the northern hemisphere, left hand spin in the southern.
How do you explain that from a flat Earth model? What would cause the opposite spin in the different hemispheres?
Coriolis effect.
Well, yeah, but they deny that the Coriolis effect exists.
They can't even spell it.
Yeah, right. So it's obvious that it occurs all over the world because the Earth is bigger. You have to say a spinning top, and here's what happens. Since the Earth is spinning, the equator, even though it's the same RPMs as say 20 miles of the North Pole, it's the same RPMs. But the distance traversed at the equator is much greater than close to the North Pole. Okay, it's like the difference between 1,000 miles and 20 miles. Okay, so the momentum of the planet at the equator is a million times greater than just south of the North Pole, and so this explains the momentum in the north and the momentum in the south is different.
They don't even know what momentum is.
I would hope
they're really that stupid.
Okay. All right, let's continue.
Globe of each hemisphere of the globe. And this is why snipers have to take into consideration the location they are on the planet when factoring in the Coriolis effect, because it's different on,
this was reported even in the Civil War. The long-range artillery, you have to take the Coriolis, not just in north to south, south to north, but also east to west and west to east, because the Earth is spinning from west to east. Ultimately, the momentum of the cannonball is going to be affected by that spin. Okay, so if you're shooting to the east, you're going to have to shoot a little less because the cannonball, less gunpowder, because the cannonball is going to fall short. And then shooting to the west, well, the west is coming at you, so that changes your distance there. Okay, this is for long-range effects. Now, if you jump up in the air and you come right down, well, you're part of the momentum. And the atmosphere is part of the momentum. But the longer the range, the more you have to take the Coriolis effect into account. And all sharpshooters, all artillery people know this. And certainly people who shoot rockets know this. All right? All right, let's continue. This is a really good video.
Different ends of the planet. Next, let's talk about this theory that you can't see curvature, okay? The flat earthers will always say you can never see curvature. This proves that the Earth is flat. Actually, it just proves how small we are in comparison to the Earth. It can be compared to a bacteria existing on a 40-meter diameter boulder. Okay? Now, from the visual perspective of that bacteria, it may appear that you're on a flat surface because the curvature is so insignificant from your perspective. it may indeed appear flat, okay? And even that as a piece of evidence in the first place is completely rendered inert, because depending on where you are on the planet, there's actually certain instances where you would see a concave if you were in a large valley compared to if you're looking at a very subtle hill in the distance. It may appear to be curved even on a flat Earth. So how does that even make any sense to cite?
Yeah, how do you explain a valley that's concave, right? Fisheye lens?
That is any kind of evidence in the first place. And I'll also hear a lot of these flat earthers bring up the fact that even when you shoot a rocket into the air and film it, that you can't see curvature. Well, that's because the atmosphere goes up so very little compared to the gigantic nature of the globe that even if you were a bacteria and you raise a millimeter off that 40-meter boulder, well, it's still going to appear the same. You're not going to see much curvature in that case either. So that's what you're seeing there, even if you don't apparently
we're talking about
see
great
curvature.
Distances.
It's something that truly amazes me, this whole flat Earth phenomenon that's blowing up, this theory that's just exploded in the alternative research community, because a lot of these researchers they don't cite anybody with a background in meteorology or physics or mechanical engineering or anything like that. And you don't have to be an employee of NASA. You don't have to be working for the New World Order to disprove these theories as a mechanical engineer or as a physicist or as a meteorologist. Okay, these are common sense things. Look, just because NASA lies doesn't mean we have to throw out all logic, all knowledge, all scientific trains of thought.
What are we even saying?
De-evolution. Flat Earth. And here's the thing. I think it's a very, very sinister government COINTELPRO operation. You go. I really do, because they want to devolve our progress, our human progress, our knowledge, right?
Now there's
along
a conspiracy
with basically
theory.
trying to demonize us. That's one of the agendas as well. I was reading an article the other day that actually compared flat earthers to climate change skeptics. This is what they're going to be preparing to roll out, okay? We've already been seeing the climate change propaganda being ramped up the past 6 months or so, and it just so happens to coincide with this flat Earth theory exploding.
Very good.
Of course, so many of the flat earthers are indeed climate change skeptics as well,
which
so
is
it makes
good,
it very
because
easy
climate
for
change
the
is
mainstream media to associate one with the other, therefore decrediting the climate change skeptics. And folks, the Earth isn't flat, okay? The Earth is a globe, all right? Like, we need to understand that not every single thing you've ever been taught is a lie. So much of it is, when it comes to socioeconomic perspectives, and when it comes to a lot of this brainwashing in certain aspects of the New World Order, like the medical industry, the finance industry, Hollywood, entertainment industry, all this, right? Very, very controlled, of course. But over the years, even amateur scientists, amateur engineers, amateur astronomers have been able to progress humanity, okay? This is something that is, it's like a complete lack of faith in humanity, this flat Earth thing. As if, give me a break, okay? Give us a little more credit as human beings. I could go on forever disproving this. I really could. I could keep going and going and going. But I'll just...
As we will do. Okay. So this guy presents pretty much our point of view that flat Earth is itself the psyop. Okay? And that obviously what's happening is the secret agencies, the intelligence community, have created this psyop as a digression from normal, average daily life, and they're trying to create a new conspiracy theory to make the rest of the conspiracy theorists look stupid. Okay? I agree with them 100%. This flat Earth thing came out at the same time as the global warming nonsense came out. okay? And Doc Waterman and I have showed that not just the Earth, but all the other planets have been heating up. So it's not due to carbon emissions, right? That PSYOP was designed to create a global taxation system from the UN. Okay, it's directed at limiting our freedom of motion, taking money out of our pockets. Right? That's what they're trying to do. I don't know if anybody's making money off the flat Earth theory, but they're sure having a lot of fun with it.
I think the gentleman made an excellent point, which you also picked up on there, Pastor Eli. When you attach this flat Earth PSYOP to something else, well, then it discredits the something else. And the something else in this case is Christianity. So because a lot of these flat earthers espouse to be Christians and they even use the Bible to support flat earth, but the world sees these people as absolute mental midgets. And therefore it says, hey, they're all Christians, so Christians are absolute mental midgets also. So you see, they attach themselves to Christianity, and therefore it throws mud and discredits Christianity. That's really the agenda.
Yeah. And Judeo-Christianity is doing a good enough job of discrediting itself without outside help, right?
Yeah,
but what it does, I agree with you 100%, is it furthers the divide between scientifically minded people and religious people.
And it makes the world think religious people are absolute idiots. That's right. That's the intention.
Yeah, that's why this whole scenario, that's why we began by showing Shadowall's analysis that he claims the Bible teaches a flat earth is really bad scholarship. Really bad scholarship. And yes, that would discredit this Christianity, and that's the intention.
That is the agenda, to discredit Christianity and therefore the God of Christianity.
There you go. And what's the God of the scientific experiments? Vishnu, Shiva, I forget what it is. Okay, it's evil, and they're using science to drive a wedge between people. That's what they're doing, and they're using the Bible to drive a wedge between people. Where, like he said, common sense. Use your common sense, folks. Do your own experiments. Figure it out for yourself. This is not hard. This is not hard to do, okay? Like I said earlier, you can get a plane ticket to one of these planes that goes into outer space. It may cost a few $1,000, but you can prove it to yourself.
You don't even have to go into outer space. I mean, just go up to 40,000 feet or 35,000 feet and look out the window. I mean, it's not a fisheye lens in that window. And I've looked out the cockpit as you have, Pastor Eli.
Yeah. So anybody who has been up in a commercial airliner can tell you right away. And there's also, if it's a fisheye, we'll have to present a video with an actual fisheye lens camera. And what happens is when the fisheye lens is perfectly level, everything in front of you looks perfectly level. But if you tilt it down, then it gives a concave effect. If you tilt it up, it gives a convex effect. So why if it's all with fisheye lenses, why do you never see both perspectives?
Because it's not a fisheye lens.
Because it's not a fisheye lens, exactly.
Right. Just a piece of plastic.
Right. Okay. So let's leave it for this today. I think we've covered a lot of ground, actually more ground than I expected to, in this first show, and so we'll pick it up next time.
Okay, thank you, Pastor Eli. This is Professor Truth, and this is episode 4 of Flat Earth for Dummies Debunked, and we sometimes call it Flat Earth Exposed. But nevertheless, why we are doing this is because our God, Yahweh Yeshua, the true God, will not be defiled by mental midgets parroting to be Christians in word and name only. And you have Christian identity, Christian Israel, Adamites here. We're not only going to shoot this theory down for those that can still think, we're going to destroy it because our God, Yahweh Yeshua, will not be mocked by stupid people or demonically possessed people or people that are hybrids going to hell. You all are heathen, either by nature or by infection of your mind. And I'm the bad cop here, and I like this job because I look forward to all of you idiots, as well as all of the other perversions in the world, transgenderism and everything else, I look forward to Yeshua HaMashiach coming back and destroying all evil, including the flat earth mental midgets. So until next time, this is Professor Truth. Again, disclaimer, Pastor Eli may not share my views. He tends to be a little kinder than I am.
Yeah, I tend to be a little kinder.
But
even with Christians.
Yeah, well, unless
Right.
he's talking about the usual suspects, he can do a pretty good job there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in any case, until next episode, and then in the near future,
Yes.
maybe Pastor Eli, you and I can throw in a couple paradigm shift shows and then get back to Scripture with Pastor Steve, too.
That'd be fun. That'd be tremendous fun. So, good job. This was a fun show. I love disproving false theories. I love it. Okay, so let's do some more next time. Praise Yahweh. Thank you.
Praise Yahweh. Until next time.
Well, it's obvious that the rocket simply runs out of fuel, right? I mean, they claim that it's hitting the flat Earth dome. All right, so I've got the copy here. I want to start out with the lies that they tell. The fake titles that they have for various videos that the flat earthers put out. And it's very obvious that the videos are, the titles of the videos are lies when you go to the video. Let's see here. Bad science, the troops and the dupes. Okay, let's see if this one here opens up.
Your chin's still kind of near the bottom, but that's it.
Okay.
In space exploration team is to be the first civilian team in history.
And the value is going to
one space.
Oh, okay.
All systems are go for launch.
This is a guy and his son. Now it's it's so absurd. Okay, let me send you the link for this one. Okay, Control C. I can see this is going to take a while. We're not going to be able to do a lot in one section, so it's going to have to take a while for us to do this. Okay, here's the rocket hitting the flat Earth dome.
I watched that one. I didn't quite understand it at the end. It was a little bit...
Well, it's obvious that the rocket simply runs out of fuel, right? I mean, they claim that it's hitting the flat Earth dome. All right, so I've got the copy here